Okay, and
All the other ones say keep the property for now, those kind of things. We can't do anything with the Grove Street property.
well, then you also have the 153 Norwich Avenue.
Yeah. And investigate, I don't know what you want to say there, Pat, investigate lot line revision with Dairy Queen.
Well,
Yeah,
again, I think that's something we should bring to Michael first before we put it out for the public
Yeah.
and have a conversation with the Dairy Queen people.
Yeah. Yeah. So there won't be any formal action at this point. We'll just talk to Mike and somebody. We have the contact information for the guy that with the Dairy Queen.
Mhm.
Okay, and that really looks like the whole list. Other than the ones that we already own and we're gonna keep and not do anything really with, right? Okay. So, after all of that, the motion as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Very good. Okay. Wow. All right. Moving on to item 4C, vehicular traffic concerns in Greenville. We already heard part of that in our report.
An update as far as the Hickory Street and Prospect Street. So
Yep.
we put a yellow centerline stripe down Prospect Street this morning from 7th Ave to Central Ave. So that part, and the traffic study was completed for the intersection. And while the accidents aren't particularly high there, and the volumes aren't real high either, the sightline issue, there is sightline issues at that intersection, especially with cars parked and things. So the recommendation from VHB was to go ahead and put a four-way stop sign there. And the chief of police has concurred with that. So we are gonna be installing a four-way stop sign, a stop condition there for Hickory and Prospect.
Okay. All right. Are there any other areas concerned in Greenville area other than what we've talked about so far?
Oh, that's it.
Okay. All right, perfect. Thank you very much. We look forward to that. Moving on to new business, item 5A, preparations for winter. I just asked Pat to give us an update on how we look for getting ready for whatever 2020, 21 is gonna throw at us this winter. Go ahead, Pat.
Well, we're on pace. We're getting the jets, the salt jets that we have of our basically 24 plow routes, 24 trucks that we use for plowing. There's 18 bigger trucks and then 6 smaller trucks, medium to small. And 13 of those are all season bodies where the salt comes out from underneath, that you don't have to put a spreader into those. So we're working on, so we still have quite like 15, 13 spreaders. So we're working on getting those ready for the season. Trucks are all in pretty good shape. I mean, we have our fleet's getting older. We have, and that's part of what I'll talk about under future capital, but we have a couple of trucks in that main group of plow trucks that are over 20 years old now. So we're in need of replacing them. I mean, they're still hanging in there, but it's just it's just a matter of time. So we need to keep those updated. But and we have plenty of salt. The salt sheds are full. So we're doing our normal preparation for the winter season. I don't foresee any problem areas.
Can I ask a smaller question? Knowing that on some of our roadways, we have the Jersey barriers for because of outdoor dining and things of that sort. Have you been in contact and having discussions with the city manager and different individuals as to how that possibly could affect plowing routes and different things of that sort?
Yes, we have, so on Main Street there at La Stella's, we're definitely picking those up. I think the outdoor dining period ends November 8th. I've been talking to Jason Vincent and NCDC too about the timing of everything and the coordination. So he's gonna coordinate with the restaurants. So we'll be picking those up in the, like, after November 8th there sometime. And probably also the ones on Billy Wilson's. I wasn't sure if we could probably manage to keep those out there, but I think we're gonna be bringing them in there also.
And I think the only reason I asked this question is, not only those two areas, but I'm thinking, I know how hectic it can get downtown with a big storm coming in and parking and snow removal and things of that sort. So me thinking budget wise and manpower wise, I just want us to be kind of prepared or cognizant of those things. So those are things that are kind of like running through my mind as we get closer to the winter. I mean, we don't know what it's going to bring, and I just want us to be as prepared as possible.
Yeah, we've been thinking those things through too, and I think, I think we'll probably be picking up both of those that are out on the actual roadways. Then there's a few others, like I'm not sure what these guys, I would imagine these guys is gonna wanna open up, use more of their parking area too. So I would imagine they're gonna be changing things around over there too. It's just not too feasible in January to be sitting outside probably unless you build an igloo or something there. But
Thank you.
that doesn't affect the roadways, but I think, we're in good shape. Our salt
Well,
sheds.
and my thing is, and it kind of, in my, and I will say it kind of does, in a sense, affect roadways because, even with these guys, those parking spots for individuals living in those apartment complexes, visiting those businesses, are now looking for parking. And if we've got a major storm or something, you have less parking areas for people with the parking bans and different things that are enacted. So that is my concern, and it's not just mine, but others are thinking about it. And for me, it's being well aware that we've had in the past 5 years quite a few snowstorms hit early. So us being understanding that between this end of October window and beginning of November, it's a very high likelihood that you could get snow, just based off of how New England is. It's hot one week and freezing the next. So just for me, I'm just thinking, with people having to move their vehicles and things of that sort, those are some of the questions and concerns that have come up. So I just figured, it is, of course, making it easier for plow trucks to go down the roads and safe, so that's just what I'm thinking.
Okay, go, continue on, Pat. Didn't sound like you still had. Was
Well,
there anything else?
Not really. I mean, I think we're in pretty good shape, and we have a few people out for different medical reasons and things, but I think we have enough people on staff to fill the plow routes. There might be some people that with a little less experience out there this year, but we'll get the roads plowed.
All right, any other questions for the director on our winter preparedness? Okay, and moving on to new business item 4B, fiscal year 2022 capital requests.
Yeah, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the capital requests that I'm going to be putting forward. I need to have my budget in to the city manager's office here by the end of the month. So from plow trucks was one of the things. We've got we've got frontline trucks still from 95 and 97. So I'm gonna put in for replacement of 2 trucks. Part of our missions, our our goals, our department goals and everything is to have vehicles less than 20 years old. So we're not quite keeping up to that. And they are in good mechanical condition, but things can't last forever. So I'm gonna put in for 2 new plow trucks and a pickup truck for vehicles. For other capital projects we're thinking of, I'm gonna need additional, we had approved last year 300,000 or so for the slate roof project. We're gonna need additional funds for that. I don't have the exact number yet, but it'll probably be at least that much again. And part of that thinking last year was just to get some money in place for the project, but and possibly do it in 2 phases also, so that, because we can get up to $100,000 grant from SHPO for any particular project. So if we did it in one large project, we could get 100,000. If we broke it up into 2 separate projects, we could potentially receive 2 grants at 2 different times for $200,000. So that's part of what I'm trying to work out with the architect too, and see what makes most sense. But in the conversation so far, phase 1 would probably be the south, the 2 roadsides, the south and the east sides of the slate, and then possibly hold back the other 2 sides for a phase 2. But we'll be requesting additional funds for that work. Other things that that have been in and out of the request, there's the Little Plains Park. I'm not sure, and I'd kind of like some feedback on that. That's the little park right by St. Pat's, just south of St. Pat's, where Broadway and Union Street splits off. So the fence there is pretty historic. It's a historic district. In the past, I had requested funds for redoing that fence, about $100,000. There's lead paint involved with the removal of the other paint, with the old paint. So that's another project I'll probably put back in the request this year. Last year, I didn't bother to put it because it hadn't gotten funded, but every time I drive by it, I just think, I gotta at least ask for it. If it gets funded, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I think it would, add to that historic area. I'll be requesting additional monies for the Sherman Street Bridge project. Although it could be covered with bond funds, I'd just as soon try to get some capital money involved with that construction project. It's roughly, the estimate now is like between 13 and 15 million, and 10% of that is going to be city funded. So it's going to be between 1.3 and 1.5 million of city funds needed for those 2 bridges. It's a major project. We do have that money in approved bond funds at the time, but 2 or 3 years from now, we may not. If we keep our road paving program up, I can't guarantee we'll have that much money left. Maybe we will, maybe we won't, but to me, it makes sense to put some capital money into something like that too, besides just bond funds. And then we've also got, we've had a Dodge Stadium improvements in there, $200,000. I imagine I'll put that in, but I don't know, depending on how important that is depends on what happens with the team over the next 8 months. We have to put together our budget now, but you won't actually be, voting on it for quite some time until next June. So it's a little bit of a guessing game, but if the stadium were to keep, if we were to keep a baseball team going up there, then we need to put money into the stadium. There's no real question about that. So those are kind of just a heads up of kind of the things I'm looking at trying to do in the next year's capital.
Okay, any questions for the director?
I don't have any questions, but I think, you're spot on talking about the stadium, thinking of it long term. I mean, I think regardless of talking about a team being there, it's still an asset in the city. So for me, us keeping it up and with the renovations and capital projects is important. As if we have to decide on doing something else with the stadium ever, we're in a good place because it's taken care of well. So I will say that that's something important to always keep in the back of our minds. So thank you.
Okay. All right, so thank you for that, Pat. Item now 5C. Let's see, informational signage request from Reagan Minor. Not that it'd be, it's a big deal, but her name is actually spelled incorrectly on the agenda. It's Miner. And we all got a packet from Nicole that that starts with the City of Norwich policy regarding monuments on city property, and then has Miss Reagan's or Mrs. Reagan's application as the last few pages. So I know we need to take up this placard that she's requesting, but at the same time, because we had an item on our agenda last time talking about a monument, and then there was a lot of conversation about the Monuments Committee in general. And so I went back and pulled the resolution from March 7, 2016. It's because it goes to who ultimately has the final say, and that is the city council, but then who should be making the recommendation to the council. So back in March 7th of 2016, there was a resolution that was on the agenda and passed. And it looks like this is where the Monuments Committee was created. And in the first part of the be it resolved, the committee was established to consider and recommend policies and procedures to be followed by the city of Norwich as described here within. Okay, and I guess my question for Stacy, because you, luckily for us, you were on the council when this went through. Is this policy that we have in our hands today, is this the policy that came from that committee's first work to actually write a policy? Is that what we're holding in our hands?
Right. So
Okay.
what was decided was that it would first start with Public Works to make sure, how the construction of whatever the monument was,
Yep.
Was it appropriate materials? How are they going to get it in the ground or put it on the side of a building, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So it was going to go to Public Works first for Pat's review, or maybe at that time, it was for Mr. Thompson's review, but so Pat would review it, and then if it met appropriateness, then the Public Works Committee would send this on to the Plaque and Monument Committee for their review, and then the Monument Committee will make the recommendation to the council.
Okay, so thank you, because that's from what I was reading. So what I read in the minutes of that meeting, it was clear, not clear, but it suggested that something to that extent was the intent. The problem that we keep bumping into is that in this policy, in the last paragraph, it says, upon the recommendation of the Public Works Committee, us, the proposed monument project will be presented for consideration and action to the council. So the Plaque and Monuments Committee is not in the chain of command here, so to speak, as laid out in this policy.
Well,
And I know that you and I were on this, and we ran into this with the monument that was ultimately ended up in the Otis and then continued.
but understand that did not go through the Plaque and Monument Committee because Otis Library was accepting the donation. So we never really, we might have given our blessing to it. It was not for that particular project,
Right.
because Otis was accepting it. It didn't go to the Plaque and Monument Committee for public hearing.
Yeah, I mean, we received so we had a presentation, right, made to us on plaque and monuments, right?
Right.
And then we never really took it up beyond that because the Otis had stepped
Because
in.
Otis accepted it,
Right,
and that's
yeah.
how that happened.
Right.
But
So,
And there is a little bit of a disjunct here where, because this application that Regan filled out is the one that's online. And at some point, a few years ago, back when Ryan and I wasn't, doing this, that application got rewritten. And, you're correct. It doesn't mention the monument committee.
so I think when it got rewritten, Pat, what got left out was, upon the recommendation of the Public Works Committee, the monument will be presented for consideration to the Monument Committee, and then for action following a public hearing and then approved by the city council. I think it got twisted around. I didn't bring with me my original paperwork. I should have looked that up. I'm sorry that I didn't, but
no apology needed. I was reading this late last night, and it never dawned on me to even send you a text message and say, hey, do you remember this? So no, my fault for putting you on the spot here in the middle of this meeting. But I'm reading. So the second piece of the resolution says, and be it further resolved, said subcommittee, meaning the Plaque and Monuments Committee, shall review all requests and applications or offers or establish, fabricate, install, on and on and on and on, any monuments, memorials, tablets, plaques, or markers to be placed on municipal property, with the exception of obviously family cemetery markers and things like that.
mhm.
All right, and then recommendation regarding the same to the full council for its consideration and action. All
Right.
So we have a resolution that pretty much laid out the role of the Monuments Committee, and we have a policy that the Monuments Committee wrote that engages this committee. But Pat said that you're right, it's disjointed because the application doesn't refer, it actually refers you to Public Works because it uses the Public Works address. All right, we have a policy that doesn't even mention the Monuments Committee, but we have a resolution that was approved by the council at the time that puts it squarely in the hands of the Monuments Committee, but doesn't mention Public Works at all. So I mean, so that has nothing to do with the Norwich Historical Society's application, okay, right? But we do have a flawed, at least a disjointed process here that the council, I believe this council should finally correct once and for all. But so having said all of that, and under item 5C, this application is really what's before us. I'm sure that the committee members saw the information. The picture that was in the information is the picture that's over, 1 block away over at the Mohegan Tribal former royal burial grounds where the Masonic temple once stood. And the plaque is, that they're intending for in front of NFA is essentially the same construction and design, just with different information. Also in those photos was information about 2 potential sites on the what we're guessing we now call the Columbus Green, or where the Italian Heritage Monument is there on right there in front of the Slater Museum on Crescent Street. So,
If I may,
yeah, I was gonna say, the committee members would like to talk about this specific application, go right ahead.
okay, so let me jump in here. So there's 4 different applications. So let's start with the Yannick Cemetery one. That one is gonna go inside the gate of the cemetery, right next to an existing map
Mhm.
that is already in place there. I spoke with corporate counsel. We do not need permission from the probate judge for the placement of that. This one could actually directly go to the council for action. But it could go to the monuments committee as well, but there's no action needed by the probate court because Public Works and the probate court have the care and custody of Yannick Cemetery. It's the same size. All of the plaques are the same size. 15 inches by 30.5 inches. The information is different, but it's appropriate. It enhances the map that is already on the cemetery property.
Mhm.
The second one, and this is in no particular order, is on Jail Hill. Pat and I discussed this. There were 2 locations proposed. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yeah. There were 2 locations proposed.
Actually, like 3 or 4 locations.
And this particular plaque talks about the jail that used to be on the hill, or
Talks
the,
about Jail Hill, and some of the people that lived on Jail Hill.
what?
After speaking with Pat and then speaking with Regan, the first proposed location where you see the back of the condos and the large tree,
Yep.
putting it in there between in the grass in front of the stone wall is the preferred location for that one.
So essentially behind the sidewalk instead of in
Right.
between the sidewalk and the road.
Right, but it would go in front of the stone wall, on the grass in front of the stone wall,
Mhm.
not on the grass alongside the tree. The third one is about the Norwich Free Academy. That location she likes where the Columbus Monument is, and that's in the city-owned property. And then the fourth one is for the Millionaire's Triangle. And that one would be going on in front of Teal House on the Broadway side of the street. I spoke with Regan again after Pat and I spoke about the location she originally picked out. And there's more room on the Broadway side of the Teal House property. And it would be, that when it talks about the Millionaire's Triangle goes down Broadway from that location. So it's appropriate there on that side of the street. The owner has given permission, even though it's a city right of way. Regan secured permission from the owner of the Teal House to put the sign abutting her property. So I would make a motion to send a favorable recommendation to the monuments that send a recommendation that the Monuments Committee meet and review these requests and then forward the action to the council.
Second that.
Hey, any discussion, any further discussion on that?
I just wanted to clarify on that one for Norwich Free Academy. There's actually 2 locations on her application, and I think the proposed location number 1, which is more facing NFA, is the better of the locations of those 2.
I agree with you. My only thought is that if you're standing at the panel, looking at the panel with NFA in front of you, which I think would be the most advantageous,
Mhm.
we're gonna have to put some concrete for people to stand on, right? A little piece that comes off of that sidewalk, right?
No,
We
it would be in the triangle, the green where the, right, correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, where the Columbus statue is.
Yes, right.
Facing
Yeah.
NFA.
So if
Yeah,
you,
but-
so that's the corner of Crescent Street, right?
Yeah,
And
Near the
up-
church,
yeah, opposite corner. Well,
across the street from the church.
right from the
yeah.
right. So
I mean, there's already one historic sign there. If you can kind of see in the picture, but it blends in. It's a brown sign and
yeah,
it talks about the Slater Museum.
yep.
That's way up. That's like 30 feet up the road. So I don't know if we would need to immediately put extra concrete, so people could step off and see the sign. But I mean, it might be a nice addition if we were to do that, but I don't think it
Well,
would be immediately required.
Well, because if you look at the mock-up of that particular panel that Regan sent, right? Essentially those photos are taken as if you were standing, right there near the church. The first photo of the old main building where the Terrell building is now, and then the picture of or whatever is the drawing of the Slater Museum is about from that same vantage point, and so on and so forth. So it almost seemed to me, I mean, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. If you're standing at the placard, reading the placard, all you have to do is glance up and you're looking in the same direction as most of the photos that are on the placard, right?
Right, yes.
So, I mean, I'm just saying that regardless, I think whatever the small cost of maybe, 10 or 12 square feet of concrete is going to be, to pull off something like this so that the placard really engages you, to what it's talking about, right? That is well worth it.
Yeah, the only thing, it's, some of that existing sidewalk isn't the best right there either, though. So I guess I would probably want to replace, a good portion of that sidewalk if we were going to start doing sidewalk work, because I was just out there today looking at it from that kind of perspective. And yeah, I mean, the sidewalk there could be improved. There's a few little imperfections in that area. So we can go ahead and do that too.
Okay, so I don't know, Stacy, it's your motion. Do you think that we need to just say in there that our recommendation includes acknowledgement that the city may incur some costs for associated sidewalk work?
Well, I think Pat I'd have to get a price, because one of the things that the city didn't want to do is start incurring all kinds of expenses
Yep.
for public works.
To facilitate the monuments, right?
To facilitate these monuments.
Yep.
Now, Regan got a grant to do these. Now, she may have some money left. And if it's $100 for concrete, I don't know what the cost would be to do that, but I think that would be something that the Historical Society would have to come up with, that money. Get some in-kind donations or something, because Public Works is putting this up for them in kind.
Yep.
And now we're gonna be, repairing a sidewalk. I don't want this to get, expensive. And then the next person that comes along says, well, you fix the sidewalk for them, now you can fix the sidewalk for me, because I'm gonna put a plaque up over here. So I think we would, if the Public Works makes a favorable recommendation to the Monument Committee, this would have to be something that the Monument Committee would bring up with Regan, either before the committee met or at that meeting, just to make sure that they understand that if it's $200 for the concrete, they have to come up with that money. We can't be encouraging people to put up plaques and monuments and always have these in-kind services from Public Works.
Well, I wouldn't have a problem with giving Regan a call and just having that quick discussion with her, because as you said, she might be able to find other funding sources, and then that the whole issue would be resolved before it even gets to the council.
Well, if it's gonna go, if this is gonna go to the Plaque and Monument Committee,
Right.
then this is something they would bring up with her. I think.
Fair enough.
We could start that discussion sooner, you know.
Right, we can have I could have the discussion with her beforehand, just saying this was one of our concerns and
Yep.
how do you want to address this? You know, for putting this up, maybe NFA will pitch in because it's a sign about the Norwich Free Academy. Maybe they will pitch in and have their crew who fix sidewalks or pour a slab or something.
Right.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a great
All I
idea.
have on
Yep.
that.
So, okay. Well, I don't think that taints our recommendation. I still think this is a great idea. It appears to me the committee is looking to find, you know, all the answers we can so that it can move forward. So if there's no other discussion. Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye,
So unanimous.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on. Item 6, other business. Could there possibly be anything else that we didn't talk about in this meeting tonight? I don't have anything. Pat, members?
Nope.
No, I have nothing.
Okay. All right, well then, being no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see each other in an hour.
Night, guys.
I'll pass on that one.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Deanna. Thank you,
thank
Nicole.
you.
Thank you, Brian.
Good
Bye.
night.
Good night, Pat.
Have a good night.
Good night, Nicole.
Good night, Stace.